Welcome to the S.T.A.R podcast.
Whoa. S.T.A.R podcast.
Welcome to the S.T.A.R podcast, hosted by Nat. Each week, we share tips and stories from safety, trucking, and recruitment, and everything in between. Listen now.
Welcome back to another episode. Today I get to sit down with Angela Tipton from Fire Your Career. So fireyourcareer.com, Angela talks all about achieving financial freedom through your career and spending more time doing what you love. So Fire Your Career is all about helping you advance your career, maximize your income, and optimize your savings so that you can gain financial freedom and spend more time doing what you love. So it was great to sit down with Angela, since one of our main pillars is through Nat Personnel, which is about recruitment and staffing. I thought this was an interesting episode that focuses about your career and thinking about what you want your dream life to be. Angela offers some interesting tips and ways that you can start looking at that. And she also shares some tips for people who are a little bit more advanced in their career planning and saving. So I would love for you to take a listen.
Well, I just want to welcome Angela to the podcast. I'm so excited to sit and talk to you. When I looked you up, your information sounded really interesting, so I'm excited to chat. So welcome.
Thanks, Leslie. Happy to be here.
Great. So I was hoping to start off, if you could just introduce yourself and share a little bit about how you got to where you are today.
Absolutely. Yes, so my name is Angela Tipton. I am the founder of Fire Your Career, which is a platform really designed to empower people in their lives with their careers so that they can really live life on their terms, which is really the end goal of FIRE. So if you're a proponent of the FIRE movement, if you've heard that term before, it's financial independence, retire early. I look at the retire early, as a lot of people do, as kind of an optional thing. I know a lot of people, and myself, I've often included in that, are very ambitious and love what they're doing in their careers. And that's completely okay. What's nice is really getting the freedom so that you can have the choice. You can choose your career. You can choose to lean out of your career. Maybe you decide you want to explore something new and you start a side hustle. It doesn't really matter what you decide, but it's really ultimately about living life on your terms. I got really passionate and excited about being on this journey, really starting from a pretty early age. I struggled a lot with my health. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease when I was 19, but I'd struggled with the illness for years prior, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. This illness, it's been a struggle. It's something I still fight with to this day, but it also gave me some really valuable perspective. And that perspective is that life is too short. We spend time struggling and doing different things and trying to achieve different things. And while those are all worthy, I want to do it more on my terms. But more than that, I want to empower others to do the same. We get so used to following the status quo and living by society's expectations. I want to challenge that narrative and help others feel empowered in challenging that narrative so they really can live life on their terms. So my own career has had its ups and downs, but it's empowered me to gain the kind of freedom and the security that I was looking for so that I could get that freedom to choose. I did lean in and out of my career as it suited me. I gained that perspective again when I became a parent and decided that I needed to take a bit of a step back, or I wanted to take a step back so I could have more time with my kids. So it's really about building that lifestyle that empowers you, whatever that looks like. And that can be anything. It's having that freedom of choice.
That's very exciting. So can you share, dive a little bit more into the FIRE method for us?
Yeah, so financial freedom, I like to make it more accessible and more achievable because it's easy to assume that in order to gain financial freedom, you need to either inherit a fortune or you need to win the lottery. Thankfully, none of those things have to happen. Sure, they can help. They're a nice boost for sure if you're fortunate enough to be one of those people, but it can really be as simple as building a successful career, being mindful about how you're spending, paying off debt, making smart financial choices so that you can ultimately gain the freedom to choose. That doesn't mean you have to live off of rice and beans necessarily. Maybe you're one of those people that you can have a really lean lifestyle. And all the power to you if you can do that. I've never been a beans and rice kind of person. I can make cutbacks where it makes sense, but I also like to lean into the things that make me feel good. So for instance, one of those things is having a yearly vacation with my family. Yeah, you might consider it a splurge. For some people, maybe that doesn't make sense. Maybe it's easier to cut that back and then sacrifice something else. It's really about having those choices and being mindfully as that you're choosing. It's intentional spending so that you can cut back on the things that aren't serving you while leaning into the things that do.
To dive in even more, like, do you have any actionable tips for if someone is thinking right now, this sounds great, this sounds like something I need to do, where do people start? Like, do you have somewhere that people can get started with this?
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone starts in kind of a different place. So for some people, it might be, hey, I need to focus on my budget. I don't know where my income's going. Okay, you can start there. For some, they know about their budget, they know where they're going, and they need to focus on paying off debt. So everyone is kind of in different places. I have some really great tools, which I'll share a little bit more about later. But depending on where you're at and what stage you're exploring, they're all things that you can do. I have resources to help you get clear on what your budget is, to help you pay off debt, to get more mindful about increasing your income and negotiating your salary. So there's lots of different things you can do, but I'd say to make it really simple, think about one small thing you can do today to just get you one step closer. When it comes to building a life of freedom, it can feel really overwhelming. And being truthful, depending on where you want to go in your financial freedom journey, it can be a pretty long road ahead. That's not to say you have to have it all figured out overnight. I certainly didn't, but you can use different resources and tools to get you just one step closer. So try not to look at as this giant monster, which it can easily turn into. Think about one small thing that you can do today. Maybe it's as simple as, hey, I have an extra $50 this month. I'm going to put that money into this debt that is really just making me feel choked, and it's making me feel nervous about my finances. And that one small thing can be enough. And that's all it takes is just one small improvement. It doesn't have to be one really big thing. It can be those small intentional steps that get you a little bit closer, and that in itself can do a lot.
For anyone who's maybe a beginner and they haven't really ever thought about this, where should people start? Like, is it thinking about the end goal? Is it looking at your, like, setting a budget, or like what's the beginning step?
That's a great point. So I always really like to start on first figuring out your why. There's a really great book by Simon Sinek.
Start with your why, yeah.
That's right. Thank you. That's a really great place to start, because you have to have an end goal somewhere, and it doesn't matter what that end goal is. That's something different for everyone. But that end goal is the thing that helps you stay motivated and clear on your vision for the future. It's also the thing that as you're working through your goals, as you're doing these things like paying off this debt, it's the thing that helps keep you motivated. So it helps you stay clear to that. So if you don't know what your why is, or your deep inner values and what matters most to you, you want to focus on that first, because that will give you the fuel you need to keep moving forward on that journey.
Okay. And then, so opposite end of the spectrum, maybe someone who they know what they want, they know maybe their ideal age they want to retire, they know their budget, they're like on their way. What would be the next step for someone like that?
Yeah, that's also a great question. So the next thing I like to encourage, if you're already really clear on what that future looks like, how much it's going to cost you, the next thing you can do is calculate your FIRE number. And it's a pretty simple concept, but to put it really simply and make it achievable, it's really just 25 times your annual expenses a year. So just to give a really flat, simple number, if you are spending $100,000 a year, and if you expect to spend that year over year, then you need 25 times that to fuel your lifestyle for the foreseeable future. So in that case, that would be $2.5 million. Now that would be $2.5 million that you would have in an investment portfolio. Now there's math behind this, and I can explain all of that. There's a lot of great sources that points to why does this make sense. But to make it really simple, if you're following a safe withdrawal method of 4% year over year, this is a sustainable amount that you need to continue your lifestyle. There will be ups and downs in the stock market, but 4% with a 95% confidence interval, again, there's a lot of math behind this, will allow you to continue living off of this amount to the point that you don't have to work if you don't want to. If you enjoy work, that's a different discussion altogether, but this allows you to live off of your investments for the foreseeable future, assuming again that you are following that 4% rule.
Okay. How do people create a career plan that allows them to achieve a FIRE lifestyle?
Yeah, that's also a great point. So your career is the fuel in the long term. It's really the engine that allows you to get this income to save so much in your investments to fuel your lifestyle plans moving forward. So in order to build a career plan, you really want to start with where you're at and think about where you want to go. Maybe you have some income goal in mind. Maybe it's some title. Just think about those things. And this should be tied to your why too. So this is also really closely tied to that. Because for instance, it might be a nice idea to become a senior executive, maybe a CEO of a company. But if on the other hand, part of your why is having freedom and flexibility to spend it with family, that may put that at risk. So as you're building out your career plan, think about what title and what income you're seeking, but make sure that it's also grounded in the foundation of your why and your values so that you're not compromising on those things. So find some balance in that, whatever that looks like. Start to tie that to your end goal. So you have your end goal, you have where you're at today. Then you can work backwards from there and figure out, okay, these are the skills I need to acquire. This is the kind of network that I need to have. These are the job changes I need to have between that in order to get to my end goal. So you can very mindfully work your career plan with a starting point and an end point and build in those goals and milestones that fit in between that.
Amazing. I like that you mentioned the balance because it's true. You want to have, I guess, a financial goal and a number goal, but you also want to make sure that your lifestyle, like you know what kind of lifestyle and what values and what happiness kind of looks like. So having that balance between the two. Yeah, I like that.
I think that's super important. And that's something that I'll admit earlier in my career that I did not have worked out real well. And I did. I faced burnout and I struggled through that. And it's a really tough place to be. And honestly, it takes so much effort to bounce back from that. It can come at quite a grave cost. So you really don't want to sacrifice those pieces of yourself if you can avoid it. It's not always avoidable. And sometimes you just don't know what you're setting yourself up for. But it is so important to ground your goals in with your values and your whys so that you can avoid that and that you're being mindful about how you're going about it.
Awesome. So you did mention that you have different resources and things on your website where if anyone wants to learn more, I feel like we could talk about this for a long time and we just kind of scratch the surface. But if someone wanted to get started with this, where's the best place to reach out to you to find out more about the FIRE method and just to learn more? I
post new resources and new articles on my website all of the time. Typically on a weekly basis. I take a bit of a step back during the summer time and so on to spend more time with my kids. But the best place to find the latest and greatest information is right on my website at fireyourcareer.com. It's spelled just the way it sounds, just FIRE, yourcareer.com. One really handy tool that I recommend getting started with is I have a free ebook that you can download right on my website called 7 Ways to Fire Your Career. If you're just starting to explore this for the first time, if you're not sure if the FIRE method is right for you, or you just kind of want to dip your toes in and figure out if it makes sense, that is one way that has some really simple resources, it's a great workbook that you can follow through and just write out your ideas, your plans for doing each of these things. So it's a good way to just get started and start to explore that. If, on the other hand, you've made it a little ways in your journey and you're looking for some really specific resources around building your career or salary negotiations or budgeting, I have specific resources that are designed just to address those needs. And that is on the Start Here page of my website. So feel free to navigate to those different resources wherever you're at in your journey.
Excellent. Those all sound great. I'll have to go check those out. I did look over your website and you did have a lot of really great information, but the ebook sounds really interesting. So I'll link to your website. And then what social media platform are you most active on? Would that be LinkedIn or?
I'm most active on Instagram. I do also have LinkedIn and Pinterest, but you'll find the most frequent posts for me on Instagram.
Perfect. So I'll link to that as well. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to add?
I think that we could talk about this topic for a very long time. I'm very passionate about this, but really, I like to make it as accessible as possible. I really, truly believe it is possible to build a life on your terms, and it doesn't have to be some big, giant monster. So again, going back to what we had talked about before, what is one small change that you can make today? Maybe it's paying an extra $50 towards your debt, or maybe it's building your career plan, whatever that looks like. What is one small step you can take today to get closer to building a life on your terms? To me, it's worth taking, right? You don't make change overnight, but it's really with those small incremental things, and it can really be that simple.
Absolutely. Perfect. Well, that's amazing. Well, it's been really nice getting to chat with you for a little bit, and maybe we can have you back on and we can dive into some of those career planning and some different topics. So thank you so much. I think this is really interesting, and it's really, I think, important to think about no matter how old you are or what stage in your career. So thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. It's been great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Whoa. S.T.A.R. Podcast.